نحن لن نستسلم، ننتصر أو نموت.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome one and all. Today we have an incredible speaker with us, Sheikh Usama. Sheikh Usama is going to be talking to us about a very important man, Omar al-Mukhtar. But before we get into that, Sheikh, I have a quick question for you. So I'm a math teacher, right? I can tell you all the reasons why math is important. But I need you to explain something to me. Explain to us, why is understanding history important?
Well, actually, history is a gem. It's a treasure trove. There's so much in it that people could use to reflect on, to deal with their problems today. I think that the lessons of history are so recurrent that they always remain relevant, even with the passage of time. So for me, if I was to summarize, the importance of history lies in the need for an example. We as human beings, we follow models. And that's why Allah Azza wa Jal, when He sent a manual, He sent a model. We need that before us. And the other reason is because history is recurrent, and the best way to deal with our future is by learning of our past.
So Sheikh, while we're on the topic of history, I have a very specific moment in history that I wanted to ask you about. So, why did Italy colonize Libya? And how long did it actually last for?
Yeah, subhanAllah, the history of our Ummah is very dynamic. It has ups and downs. And learning about the early modern history of the Ummah is so critical to understanding our current reality. And Libya fits in a very specific place in the broader spectrum of the struggles of the Ummah in the modern day. To fully grasp that, one needs to understand the history of the European colonization of the Middle East. And in this case, for Libya, it was the Italian colonization. And this all happened in the latter days of the Ottoman Empire. When it began to crumble, and when it officially crumbled with the end of World War I, that's the time where colonization was at its prime. Okay. And for Libya, that was from 1911 to 1943. That was like about a 30-year or 30-plus year period in which Italy controlled Libya. Well, Sheikh Omar al-Mukhtar is actually a critical figure to fully understand in terms of the struggle of the Libyan people for independence from the colonization, and actually for the greater struggle of the Ummah in the modern day. Really? Sheikh Omar al-Mukhtar he was given a few different titles. One of these is Asad al-Sahara, the Lion of the Desert. Another was Sheikh al-Mujahideen, the Sheikh of the Mujahideen. His life was very illustrious in terms of his upbringing and education. By the way, he was an orphan. His father died in the way to Hajj, and he was actually raised by one of the shuyukh in that area in eastern Libya, in the area of Jabal al-Akhdar and Barqa. So he actually was under his care, and Sheikh Omar al-Mukhtar had to go through immense amounts of struggles, especially being as a desert people. Libya, is a very special country in its tadayyun, iltizam. It's actually known as the country of 1 million hafiz. And it's also a special country in that its rugged terrain, its difficult environment, produced a shakhsiyya, a strong personality, a very courageous person, Omar al-Mukhtar. And he was able to stand up for his people, stand up for what's right, stand up for the truth and battle against the aggressors. Yeah.
And so his upbringing definitely had a huge role, his environment, on why he became so strong.
Absolutely.
Personality.
Absolutely. Like throughout his lifetime, he was in many altercations with colonizers, whether it was on the borders with Egypt, the British colonizers, or in Chad with the French colonizers, and also in Libya with the Italian colonizers. And his life actually ended in a very, very poetic way. And I think I'll mention that in a little bit, but it's a very powerful way his life ended.
Wow, Sheikh. So Sheikh Omar really sounded like an incredible, powerful man, mashallah. How did his achievements affect the Ummah in a greater way?
Yeah, so Sheikh Omar al-Mukhtar, he is a great icon of courage for the Muslims today. And courage is one of those fundamental akhlaq. It's from Ummahat al-Akhlaq, fundamental characteristics that, is actually at the base of many virtues. In order for me to really bring change to my life, in order for me to overcome some of the struggles that come my way, whether they're in terms of my deen or my relationships, I need to have courage. I need to have courage. And I think that's like one of the biggest lessons we learn from his life. Courage is essential to every endeavor to positive change in life.
So when we're talking about a man like this, we always wonder how a powerful man's story ended. Like, how did this inspirational man's book come to a close? How did Sheikh Omar die, and what were his last words? What was that final moment like?
Yeah, so Sheikh Omar al-Mukhtar, actually from the very beginning, he was part of the Libyan uprising against the colonizers from 1911. He actually passed away in 1931. And Libya gained its freedom in 1943, about 12 years later. So Sheikh Omar al-Mukhtar was captured in one of the battles, and he was given a very, very superficial court hearing, and he was convicted of crimes against the colonizers, and he was set for execution by hanging. And his last words was in front of a crowd of Libyans, thousands of them, saying that we will not surrender. It's either that we're liberated or we die. And if I die, then you'll have to deal with the generation after me and the generation after that. My life will extend far beyond the life of the one executing me now. And then he was hung and he passed away, rahimahullah rahmatan wasi'a. A very, very powerful life. It's very, very inspiring. Anyone going through a lot, know that every great person in history had to overcome insurmountable challenges, had to go through a lot. Difficulties produce greatness, and we see that in Omar al-Mukhtar.
Wow, I really got goosebumps from that ending. So when you hear that speech on how he was talking about like us, like the future generation. Is it fair to say that he was talking about us? Or is he talking about just the generation in Italy?
Well, that's the interesting thing, and I think Jazakallah khair for bringing that up. Actually, it's important for us as the up and coming generation to learn about our deen on a global scale. Yes, we need to learn about our local struggles in the US, but it's very important to also have an understanding. And that's what Sheikh Omar al-Mukhtar was aware of. He wasn't a sheikh and a guide just for the Libyan people. He was an emblem, he was an example for the Ummah as a whole. And I truly believe that his words stand true to everyone dealing with a plight, a struggle, wherever they may be. The Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is proving to continuously produce gems. And we pray that we're one of those gems, and that we serve the Ummah with commitment, devotion, and sincerity in dealing with our realities, even if they're different than the realities of Umar al-Mukhtar and the likes of him. Nonetheless, we have our mission and we have our role to play. Learn history, embrace the wealthy tradition that our Islamic timeline has produced. The second thing after that, don't ever think that you on a personal level, on an individual scale, cannot produce greatness. Every person can make an immense amount of change in the place that Allah Azza wa Jal has placed them. And another thing, if your life seems real tough, don't be frustrated with what Allah Azza wa Jal has allowed to manifest in your life. There's a reason for it there, and difficulty can produce a lot of great things within you. Embrace that, and I'm sure that you'll find your life experiences so much more fulfilling.